Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us to another session of our webinar series. Today, we have with us Caterina Sprotoniati. She's our partner for the Ecosystem Fund. We thought that it was a great opportunity to have her with us today. Let us know what the Ecosystem Fund is all about, what the criteria is that they follow, what type of startups and initiatives that are looking and interested in funding, telling us a little bit about also the first round of investments, and then open to Q&A for all of you interested to get to know more about it. So, Caterina, thank you so much for being with us today. The floor is yours now.
Great, thanks, Gloria. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm one of the partners of the RSK Ecosystem Fund. So I'm going to share my screen. Today, I'm going to try to describe you in just in a simple way within 20 minutes. Our culture, where we invest, describe a few of our investments, and then where we're planning to invest on 2020. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. So the most important, so we help you understand who we are and the culture of the fund. Most of all of the partners are ex-startup founders, and most of us, we are also engineers. And this is why we fully encourage first-time founders to actually come in contact with us, share their ideas, and tell us what they want to build on top of Bitcoin. We fully understand.
You're not sharing your screen right now.
I'm not?
No.
Oh, give me a second. Here you are. Can you see it now?
Yes, now yes. Perfect. Thank you.
So we encourage first-time founders wherever they're coming from. We totally understand how hard it is how to build a startup. It's not just the fundraising; it's how you build a seamless product, how you actually grow, how you go to the market, how you fundraise on the later stage. From the beginning to the end, it's a procedure where it's full of obstacles, and it's getting harder, actually. It's never getting easier. So that's why, as a fund, before we invest, and we always check if we can actually help the founders and how we can help them through our connections, through the Ecosystem Fund, through the RSK networking, and how each startup can be complementary to the other. It's very important. So we are location agnostic, of course. We invest in founders all over the world. It doesn't matter where you are. We love to invest actually in founders in emerging markets, especially because you guys have, and girls, you have the advantage that, when you live in an emerging market in a developing country, you're the ones who truly understand the problems and that crypto can solve. So you have an amazing advantage at this level. Let me give you very briefly, like in a few words, like our thesis, which is that we invest in economies on top of Bitcoin. Let me explain this a little bit. So Bitcoin gave us a solid, secure infrastructure. And what RSK did is actually that it enabled us, it gave us the technology to build to go beyond that and build economies, new markets on top of this secure infrastructure, the Bitcoin infrastructure technology. So this is where we invest. And we call it Finance 2.0 because we mainly see applications on the fintech, but this doesn't matter. This doesn't mean that we only invest in fintechs. Of course, we are open to invest in other sectors, but so far it seems that the most obvious application of the Bitcoin and the blockchain is finance. So where we invest is from finance 1.0 to finance 2.0. I'm going to give you now a few examples of our latest investments and describe how all dots are connected and how they connect to RSK. Starting from Maltese. Maltese are two French founders, Y Combinator. They graduated from Y Combinator Accelerator. And what we really liked with Maltese is that these guys are very focused on the user experience, something that we rarely see in the crypto market. So what's the problem? In the crypto market, in first place, we have crypto, which is a totally new thing for the average user, for every one of us. And we have to use crypto and transact, which is very complicated by itself. And then most of the startups out there, they don't really pay attention on the user experience. So Maltese did something very smart. They mimicked actually the banking online experience. So they created an online bank, but for crypto. And you can actually do exactly what you do on your online banking when you access your Wells Fargo, your HSBC, whatever, with Maltese, but with currencies, with cryptocurrencies. So you can receive payments, pay your clients, send invoices, earn interest through your holdings, your savings. You can have multiple business accounts. It's exactly the same experience. And the most important is that it's a multi-sig wallet. So Maltese doesn't have your assets. You have your assets from the beginning, the beginning to the end. Maltese so far has more than 12 million in deposits, dollars, and more than 30 institutional clients. The guys are mainly focusing on improving the user experience and, of course, growing their client base. So RSK, in this case, is working with Maltese in order to create a seamless interface for those who hold Bitcoin and want to use them in their business. And it's a great first step. We believe, of course, there's room for much improvement to do more things on that, and we will describe later how we can improve. But it's very important to have, the first step, like the user interface, to be as simple as possible. So the second one is totally different. It's more like a technology-oriented project, Pocket Network. So we have most of us right now, I guess most of you, you're founders that you're watching, and you want to build something on Bitcoin or any other blockchain. So the biggest problem that you face is in the beginning is that you have to install, run, and maintain your nodes. So the Pocket guys, Michael and his team, what they did is that they created the marketplace where on the one side, we have those who run the nodes. It can be anyone. And on the other side, we have the developers who actually use a universal API. With only one API, they can connect from Bitcoin to any other blockchain. And they can actually, with this API, they don't have to install, maintain, or whatever, spend time and a lot of money, to run a node. But the only thing that they have to do is to use the universal API and connect with any blockchain that they wish. So in this way, founders can focus from the beginning on what is important, their product, their growth, fundraising, instead of focusing on this frustrating infrastructure through running and maintaining nodes. So a use case example here is a company like Maltese when they want to integrate add Bitcoin on their platform, they, instead of the guys having to run and maintain their nodes, they can just use Pocket Network from the beginning and move on with what is important. A third example, this is one of the latest investments, which we now go to deeply fintech example. Let me step back a little bit and describe you very briefly the derivatives landscape right now. You all know that we all have seen, the boom on the derivatives products the last 2 years. We all know like the centralized exchanges like Deribit, BitMEX, OKX, all centralized, very successful. They experience amazing growth. The problem with these platforms is that users do not own their assets. Everything is centralized, owned by the exchanges, the companies. And the second thing is that everything that you see, every product that you experience is designed and only created by decentralized exchanges from very specific institutional companies. And this is happening because the market is highly regulated. And for example, BitMEX or all the other exchanges out there, they are the ones that they define the prices, the premiums, what kind of options or future products they're gonna go to the market. So the market is very, very close. It's not an open market. So Vega, what they did is that they created a decentralized and open protocol where allows anyone from any place to create any derivative market that they wish. And this creates, of course, new opportunities. This creates new markets. So building in general a derivative product is very, very complex. It's not an easy thing. There are many things to consider. One of these, and we have seen many hacks or front-running happenings. The most challenging thing, of course, is the front-running, and this has to do mainly with the oracles and the data as you get the data from the traditional markets. So this has to do with the delay on time, which creates opportunities for some traders to speculate, creating the front running as we know it. And there are many other examples like that, like the settlement, the clearing. There are so many factors that you have to consider in order to build a solid derivative protocol. And what we liked with Vega is that they actually created a protocol that actually solves, is a purpose built. It's actually solved all of these problems for the founders, so they do not have to worry about the security of their platforms. The founder only has to build the product on top of this protocol without having to worry all the time about if someone's going to front run or there's all these inefficiencies that have been created because of the decentralization, decentralized architecture. So it's very important protocol, and because imagine that thanks to the combination of RSK and Vega, we will be able to create financial products, new economies on top of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin network. And we are sure that we believe, and this is not happening right now, it's going to be the first protocol. So imagine the possibilities. Each one of you, if you're founders and you have background on the derivatives market, you can imagine the possibilities of building such products. So the last one is pretty much the umbrella, not the umbrella, actually the bridge between the traditional, the finance 1.0 to finance 2.0. Why? Because before everybody, we faced, either you're a fund, an exchange, a startup, either you're just a single user that you want to use crypto or trade crypto on any exchange. We all have faced the same problem, that banking regulations. and regulations in general, being compliant. So most of the founders out there, one day, most of you guys probably you have experienced that. So when you start your company, you have to build relationships with crypto-friendly banks. You have to make sure that when you make a payment application that you are not, you're compliant, that you're not, fall into something illegal. You don't do like something wrong that, the bank might cut you off like overnight. So Zero has, these guys, it's a company actually that they got all the licenses in a state and the federal level. And they make sure that you're fully compliant from the beginning to the end when you start an exchange, a fintech company, a payment company, a wallet, whatever, you name it. So Zero has make sure that you're compliant. They make license as a service through an API. And this can apply to all of the startups that we mentioned before, any of the startups that we will see in the future. It's how we connect actually the traditional market with the new market, the fintech too. And the most important here, imagine, for example, for the Bitcoin, that you can create like a BTC USD product using your yen without having to worry about anything that we described before. So where do we invest? Okay, 2020 is probably the most challenging year ever for all of us. It's a hard time for founders, hard time for everyone. But this is when new opportunities come, and it's a great year actually for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. So this year especially, let me go back. In general, so far, what we have seen is two types of startups. They're either speculative, like exchanges. We all know what it is about. Like exchanges, just speculation. They don't really use the assets. And the second one is fintech companies, like payments, that they use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, as a store of value, or as a gateway through payments. We haven't seen a lot on the latter, unfortunately. We've mainly seen speculative applications. And we are eager actually to pay attention to these startups that they want to build on top of how we can use actually Bitcoin, the RSK, the smart contracts on Bitcoin, how we can use them to solve real problems, and especially in emerging markets like Africa, like Latin America, like East Asia. So there are huge problems out there. Like, let's say, for example, in Africa, high remittance fees, monopolies, closed markets between for example, the banking systems, closed markets between the countries. So all these inefficiencies that crypto can solve. And we're looking forward to see more from these regions, and of course, founders who want and they're eager to solve these problems. Just to give you an idea, this year we received around 300 applications, and we invested in 5 of them. The reason that we are so selective is because the RSK Ecosystem Fund has a very, very specific thesis. The RSK Ecosystem Fund wants to take advantage of and to give opportunities to markets on top of Bitcoin. And the only technology that enables that is RSK so far. So we're very specific on investing on startups that they open new markets on top of Bitcoin. And this is where we're focusing in. I'm going to give you, besides the how to apply, maybe most of you already know. So you can go to fund.rsk.co. You can tap the apply button and, of course, fill the form. If we don't come back to you, it's because we usually do, even if you're not in our thesis. But if we don't come back to you, don't get discouraged. It's not that you have a bad product, or if we don't invest after our meetings or calls. It's not that you have a bad product or that we didn't like you. It's because it doesn't fall in our thesis, which is very specific. So we usually, the investment decision process is about 2 to 3 weeks. It really depends on, how complex is the technology or how deep in due diligence we have to go. Sometimes, when there's a market that we're not very familiar with, it might take longer and we need to do more due diligence. So it might take like 3 to 4 weeks, but usually it's 2 to 3 weeks. And we're pretty fast. Of course, we like to talk with all founders and ask you about your technology. If it's solid, make due diligence on your technology. If the product makes sense to your users. We don't really care if you have other investors at the same time or our other investors are chasing you or whatever. If we believe in something and we see that it has potential, we just invest. We don't care if you're a first-time founder. We don't care where you live. It's all irrelevant. If you have something that really matters, and it's something that we can see the potential, we are in. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Fran, maybe we can add my partners if they want to participate in the Q&A. Can you hear me? Hello?
We are getting ready. Hold on, just 1 sec. Yanis should be already accepting the invitation, and also Costas. And let's try Gloria also.
Yeah.
So guys, you should see the invited you to stage. Yeah, Gloria.
Guys,
Then your sound is.
yeah, here. It's okay. Let me see the questions.
And yes, Yanis, we can hear you.
There. I think I don't know.
Yeah.
You
It's
could
okay.
take me off of stage because I think there's some. Just leave Yanis on stage and Costas maybe.
Yes, in Costas. Can you accept the invitation? Here it says that he's getting ready. Costas.
Costa? I don't think he's here. It's okay. So Yanis cannot connect.
Well, yeah, Yanis is asking to get added. While they're added and they're getting here, I could get off of stage. So I'm not answering questions. So let's just leave the Katerina's team on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Perfect.
And maybe we could start, Katerina. One of the questions is, what are the possibilities of the cloud for this kind of projects?
It's very, I don't think I understand the question of the cloud. Alejandro, can you be more specific? You mean as a storage in general? Alejandro knows it's not here.
Guys, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yep, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I need to connect from my Mac. So.
Something like that. Or someone else.
So the question was, what are the possibilities of the cloud for this kind of projects?
Meaning how we can take advantage of the cloud, or if it can support the cloud-based solution. Or like a SaaS.
Yes, well, he's saying something like that.
Advantage.
Advantage of.
Advantage is a good comparison.
Advantage.
Advantage IO. Yeah, let me, I put in here the link.
Let me check.
Well, while one is looking into this, that somebody else wants to, in the meantime, get answering.
Yeah, so another question is from Antonio.
Yes.
You invest in fiat or in RBTC REIT? Antonio, that's a good question. It really depends on the project. If the startup is building on on a REIT infrastructure, and it makes sense to invest on REIT. If not, then we invest on BTC or a stable like USDC. So hope that answered your question. It really depends of what it makes sense for the startup. Sometimes, for example, startups, the volatility of Bitcoin is very high. At the times, I mean, this is always happening. But sometimes we prefer to go on a more stable solution and just make the investment right away. Or other times through REIT, it makes sense. Does the royalty programs using BTC for rewarding customers are on your investment thesis? That would be a good use case. Yes, it falls if it makes sense, and we can see a good market which is rewarding rewarding customer. Yeah, it's a good. It's a very good it opens new markets, and of course we've seen very successful examples outside the traditional, like with USD. So yes, it falls in our investment thesis if there's a potential and a good market. Do need these projects for search cloud? Yanni, did you have the chance to?
I'm looking at this exactly, but I don't really understand the questions. Because the link I have it's like a commerce website or something like that. So I don't really relate the question with this. I'm sorry, I just can't make the connection.
So Francisco Mariano is asking, to evaluate an idea product, typically to fund it should have an MVP working, or the product could only be an idea. Of course, ideally, yes, MVP working, that's the best. Why? Because at least we want to see, how the founders understand user experiences. It's very important. So if you don't have anything, we cannot see how you think about a seamless experience, very simply. So an MVP helps, gives you better, of course, possibilities to get funded.
Trying to get some more info about the Advantage IO. Do we need this project's infrastructure cloud? I'm trying to understand.
While Alejandro writes to us a little bit more, I think a very interesting topic is to talk a little more on DeFi opportunities. Yanis, Costas, and Caterina, because it seems like some of the investments you've done is in that specific area. Could you maybe like expand a little bit on that and how you're saying DeFi on Bitcoin right now? And do you see that as one of the big priorities in your investment thesis?
Gloria, I missed the first part. Which one?
No, what I was saying is that if you could expand a little bit on DeFi, it looks like you're already making some investments in DeFi. So from the Ecosystem Fund perspective, how you're seeing at the whole DeFi on Bitcoin movement, and it looks like that is one of the areas you are focusing on from investment perspective.
We do. For two reasons. So the landscape, as I described on the presentation, is that we mainly see products towards speculation on DeFi, like futures or exchanges or whatever. So we would like to see more fintech on how we actually use these assets, how we use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, as a gateway for emerging markets. And we don't see a lot of projects that do so. So most founders are focused, of course, on the on the other side because there's huge interest right now. But we would like to see more on actually using Bitcoin as an asset, as a currency. And of course, we are open, to fund projects like that. And again, we're not only focused on fintech. Fintech is the most obvious application of the crypto. If there is another application in another sector, we're open. Blockchain is a technology. It's a tool. If we can use it in a different way that makes sense, of course, we're open.
Great. Yeah, we have a question from Habakkuk Vera. Could you see it there?
Yes. From Mexico.
I think that's a very good for the studio, maybe.
So you're building a prototype in your neighborhood for a reward system to urban tasks. You don't have a developer. Okay, you can send us on the website. If you apply, I think I gave the website. So the RSK Ecosystem Fund, you can go and tap the Apply Now button, and you can send us, fill out the application, and we can come back to you. Yes, as Yanis said, we can help you through the studio if it makes sense.
Yeah, Ariel is here, so Ariel, maybe you can jump in and explain.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, we have also Ariel Muslera, who's the director of the RSK studio, that is also based in San Francisco. So if you guys have questions that you want to take the opportunity to make, this is a good space since we have Ari here as well.
Yeah, he needs the mic.
He's getting on stage. He's getting ready.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ari. Maybe it's a good opportunity for you to talk a little bit about what the studio does, what the relationship between the studio and the fund. That will be good for people to understand.
Sure. So the studio and the fund were created at the same time, and the partners behind the studio and the fund are also the four of us, plus RSK, of course. And the idea is that, as a fund, Yanis, Caterina, and Costas are mostly focused on identifying teams that, as Caterina said, have an MVP ready, or they already have a business and they're just raising money in traditional ways. The studio, on the other hand, we have an operational team on the ground. We have an office in San Francisco, which is now pretty much closed because we can't get access to it, but it should be opening pretty soon. And we're all working from home. We have people in San Francisco, we have some people in Argentina, and we have 6 developers in China as well, working remotely. And we focus mainly on 2 things. One is on helping RSK showcase some of the technology capabilities. So we work with the internal teams of RSK, building, for example, some developer tools. We created, or we led the creation of the Reef wallet, which we recently launched. And we have a bunch of other projects in games and some other areas that we work internally, trying to use as much as we can all the technology stack that RSK and IOV Labs provides. And the second thing that we do is we collaborate with the fund and with both portfolio companies that the fund invested in, and also companies that they may look at, and maybe, as I think, what's the name of Habakkuk? I don't know if you pronounce that well. Teams that are starting and they want to somehow integrate their product into RSK technology. And we have some capabilities, some internal capabilities that we can help you with, analyzing whether it makes sense, and if it does, and of course, if it does make sense to us as well, we collaborate and we bring you on board on the RSK platform.
So what would be, Ari, just to further clarify, when would a company will go talk with the fund versus the studio?
So the easiest way is, if you're looking for money, then talk to the fund. What might happen is that the fund will look at the project and they will offer them, hey, maybe you're not ready for the fund, but we see that there's a path of collaboration with the studio. That's one way of getting to the studio. And then if you're not looking for money yet, you're just trying out ideas, or have a cool idea. We also have our own ideas, and sometimes we don't have enough internal team members to execute. So we're also always looking for people that are interested in testing our technology, and we can kind of like guide you or provide. We have not only development skills, but my personal background is in investing, in advising startups, in helping them fundraise, strategy, product development. So we can provide like more of a holistic advisory role for very early stage projects as well.
Great. Yanis share also with the community the Innovation Studio landing page, where there is also a form to get in contact, just like there is one for the fund. So there's the link there for those that might be interested. Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit more, Ari, in terms of the fund? The studio up until right now, what it's been focusing on, and what kind of collaborations are you mostly interested on?
So I can mention a few things that we are working on that might be relevant. The biggest one is we built and recently launched the Reef wallet, and we are working on the next iteration of the wallet. And that next iteration, which will come live in the next few months, will have like an internal mobile browser where we can launch other dApps internally from the app, and it will be fully integrated with our wallet. So if you guys are working on dApps and you want to have some sort of a platform to distribute, then we can talk whether it makes sense to integrate it to our wallet. And then in addition to that, we're also always looking for example, DeFi solutions that we can incorporate into the wallet as a part of the roadmap. The other thing is in some areas like games, we're also working with some external teams. Again, the idea behind this is, being an innovation studio, we like to try new things. So we're very open to ideas that we might not have come across, and we can either work with you directly, or if the time is ready, we will direct you to the fund, or we will tell you, well, now it's not the time, but here's our feedback. We'll try to be as helpful as possible. As you can imagine, we cannot say yes to everyone, but we try to be helpful in the process as well.
Great, thank you.
So there's one more question. So do you invest in infrastructure projects to help DeFi projects? Yes, the answer is yes. For example, ZeroHash is one of these companies. It's railways for the infrastructure to be compliant.
Great. Thank you, Yanis. The fiat question was answered before, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I think we have answered all of them. Let's wait a little bit if we have any more.
Yeah, if you invest on RBTC and REEF or in fiat, I think you answered that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other?
I'm trying to understand the cloud question. If somebody can. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, well, we have Alejandro contact because he registered here, so maybe
Okay, yeah. Maybe we
have
can
a follow-up conversation with him offline to try to understand and elaborate, better, and being able to give him an answer on his question. I think right now it doesn't look like we have more questions. Fran, do you have any other one coming your other way that you want to share, or? I think not.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I think that there's just one missing, but it was answered on the context, is if you invest in projects to help DeFi projects. It was asked, but I think that it was already answered.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so basically, we don't have any more questions. I don't know if you have any statements, finished statements or message that you, Ari or Katerina and team, want to give to the audience. This webinar, like all of the ones we do, will be uploaded later to YouTube and will be available, and will be sharing with the community for those that were unable to make it to the live session. Besides the YouTube channel that Fran just shared, we have the webinar page, and what we are doing in there is that we are adding not only in past webinars, you could see we are adding the link to the YouTube video, but also we are uploading the presentations and resources so that are available to the community. Afterwards, it's a very good place for getting information. We have done, I don't know, Fran, but in the last 2.5 months, I think we've done like about 50 webinars. Many of them is because we did several in 3 languages. It's not like we talk about 50 topics. But we've been, we have developer-oriented, we have general audiences, we have tackled about use cases, including this one, that is the fund, and what type of use cases they are investing on. And we also have done quite a few about REEF. So you could access, again, all the past webinars on the YouTube channel, or you could directly go to the webinar landing page that we just shared the URL, you could see the upcoming webinars to register, and you could see the past webinars. It's a working process, so we had some issues with the uploading the presentations in a secure manner, but we're working through that. So, just keep visiting, and we'll keep adding presentations and links to all the topics that we have covered and to the ones that we will be covering as well in the next weeks. I don't know, Fran, if you want to say anything else regarding the webinars.
No, that's pretty much it. Thank you all for joining. And next week we have already 3 prepared. One of them mostly for Portuguese speakers. I see here Solange. She will be doing it. She's our developer advocate in Brazil. It will be about what is RSK. So we'll also tackle a little bit about the Ecosystem Fund and the Innovation Studio and all the branches that RSK has. Afterwards, we will have a mining conversation also with Luxor and the legal hackers of Montevideo. That will be on Thursday. And on Friday, we will have a Rift Storage demo where we will teach people how to upload our website to the storage. So you can also go to the developers.rsk.co/webinars and you can sign up there.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you, everybody that joined us. Special thanks to Caterina, Yanis, Costas, and Ari. And we'll be letting everybody know once the presentation, today's presentation is available on YouTube. So that you could, in case you want to watch it again or you want to share it with people that might be interested on this information. So thank you, Caterina. Thank you, Ari, Yanis, Costas. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank
Bye
you.
all.